if your brain weighs 2 kgs, if you put the bacteria aside, that would be weighing 2 kgs, and you have two brains, one in your head, one in your abdomen. And these two have a connection. And so if you feed them the right colors, which is the right fibers, and variety and diversity of these fibers, you are actually making your health better, because 70% of your immune system lies in your gut. The carbohydrate that comes, which is the fiber that actually comes to the infant from the breast milk, which are human milk oligosaccharides, the gut microbiome of the infant, which is the first colonizers, which are bifidobacteria, they actually feed on these HMOs. And that actually is linked to longevity and immunity and long-term health benefits. My father told me, learning never stops and life always teaches you. For me, learning has been an innate journey. I love to learn. Learning makes you acquire knowledge, and applying that knowledge gives you wisdom.
Today's guest is someone who operates at the intersection of science, systems, and human well being. A clinical nutrition scientist, integrative health researcher, and the founder of Sage Work. Her work challenges the way we understand health itself, from decoding the gut microbiome to designing environments that influence human biology. She brings together science, behavior, and space into one cohesive philosophy. Today, we go beyond nutrition and medicine to explore how the systems around us, what we eat, where we live, and how we think, shape our long term health and resilience. This is not just about healing, this is about rethinking how we live.
Today, I'm joined by a very interesting person, Dr. Shruti Pai from Bangalore. Let's get to know her more. Thank you, Shruti, for coming on Expressions. I'm so glad we're doing this.
Pleasure to be here, Neha.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, you have a PhD in clinical nutrition from St. John's Research Institute, and very interestingly, you did it in late 40s, when you had your children and loads of responsibilities. How did you manage that? I'm very curious. But now you're running a design venture called SageWork. So, that's a huge, fascinating jump too. So, how did your gut microbiome research lead you to Sage Work? And talk to us about your journey.
I think it's the other way around, actually. So basically, I feel, though I studied biomedicine, I'm a designer. I think design comes innately to me, and that's the reason I think every learning arc in my journey has been consciously designed by my subconscious.
Okay.
In the sense that I was, I had an ovarian lottery. I was born in the Kamath family. So we're known as the food people. It was set up in 1950s, and we were known as the idli vada dosa people, and I hated it. Just like any person who is born in such families. And from a very young age, we were already exposed, whether it was holidays or whether it was summers. It was almost like an internship. I think they didn't have any people working, or they were short of staff, and they put the children right at the job at a very young age. So for 3 decades, I've been associated with food and customer service. So, and that was also large kitchens and service-oriented industry with food is kind of a thankless job, but it's also the most amazing job to have, because you're ending up feeding people. And I feel till date that's one thing I do really well. So I think designing restaurants, designing menus, designing food recipes to suit each person's palate came naturally to me. Then for 2 decades, a little more than that, I have been part of the Manipal ecosystem, and I designed healthcare, education, and hospitality too in that vertical, where it was campuses, it was hospitals, a resort on the outskirts of town, a catering company called Chef on Wheels. It was a lot of learning and large scale institutional organizational design which took into consideration a lot of the aspects I innately realized only today that I love to design, which is that behavior of people to the stimulus, which is the environment, is what denotes how a person will perform
Yeah.
and thrive in an environment. So, food was one which I always thought food made people thrive. And then I realized it was not just that, it's the setting and the environment in which you live in and thrive will make you thrive. And so that led the journey to sage work, where the sage work is the integration of everything of these lived experiences and accolades of 46 years, and along with this whole PhD, which now puts another spin on things, which one moment I thought, oh, these are all different fields, but they all so beautifully came together because when you feed your gut is linked to your brain, and when you feel emotions, it is also part of the
Yeah.
same chemistry, and
Mm.
it all puts in perspective when you look at sage work, because the verticals of sage work are science, soul, and space, and that is the more general way so people could understand what it is. But because I'm a scientist and I will talk scientifically, actually, science stands for biology, which was also my favorite subject in school. And so it made it very, very passionate.
Yeah.
And that's why I got into the gut, because that was what led me to it. The second is space, because space is all about memory, and experiences have memory, and they're all sensorial. So when you look at your spaces and the designer spaces, which I've been doing for over 2 decades, I didn't know it then, but I know it. I've known it nascently that you are I was actually designing based on color psychology. I was designing based on food psychology. I was designing based on every element which was touch points for how a person was made to feel, how he or she saw things with all your five senses: your sight, your smell, uh, your hearing, your taste, and your touch and feel points, right? So I think when all your five senses are taken care of and you are made to feel in a space safe and secure, you naturally thrive and your
Yeah.
performance just skyrockets.
I agree.
And if you look at today's system, when you look at companies, there are parameters that are being measured, and you get an award for actually being having a good company that has looked at such spaces. So if there's a balance between this biology and this space, I
Yeah.
feel it's the best thing. And soul came in because I feel if you work without a purpose, if you don't have that in your life, I feel there's no grounding. And so that particular aspect was linked to the behavior part. And that's why I call the soul scientifically as behavior. And that is what integrates SageWorks, science, yes, and
Wow.
soul.
So I'm guessing your designing style must be very minimalistic. Would you say that?
I wouldn't say yes and no at the same time, because I think you don't want to clutter too much,
Yeah.
because I think clutter clutters
Yeah.
your brain.
Yeah.
But design, when it comes to sage work, is bio-individual, just like it is with your gut microbiome, with your genetics, with basically what you like, I may not like, what you are predisposed to is already preset by your genetics, and your gut microbiome is definitely very different from mine. So similarly, how you react or to your sensory cues and how you feel comfortable in an environment will be very different from how I would be. So if you are a very minimalistic person and you like it a certain way, this is at an individual level, I'm
Yes.
saying. I would design it differently for you depending on your work, your lifestyle, the way you are as a being.
Sure.
And if it's at an organizational level, an institutional level, whether it is education, whether it's healthcare, the needs are different.
Yeah.
So it won't be the same everywhere.
Absolutely. Got it. So what does the word holistic mean to you? I mean, it's used very loosely these days,
Mm-hmm.
but what does it genuinely mean to your work, to your, your personal space? What would you say?
I honestly don't like the word,
Okay.
not because of the word by itself. As you rightly said, it is a little vague. It's everything and nothing at the same time. But what I honestly mean in terms of the scientific way of seeing holistic is again what I just mentioned about biology, experiences, and behavior. So, when you look at biology, you're looking at the gut microbiome, the gut brain axis, the inflammation, metabolic activities in your body. And when you're looking at the space, again, I'm talking about the sensorial cues of all your five senses and how you react to it. And when you look at it in terms of the soul, I was talking about behaviors like how you handle stress, how you purposefully lead a life to um, make yourself thrive is
Yeah.
the third part of the
Yeah.
thing. So that for me is holistic, and that is a well-lived life.
So, and what does a space designed around health science look like for you?
So a space designed around health science to me is something that grounds me, makes me physically calm, channeled, motivated.
Yeah.
So basically, 90 percent of your serotonin is produced by your gut, and that is a hormone that actually takes care of your mood. So there are similar hormones that actually take care of your motivation, which is dopamine and stuff like that. So I want to be looking at a health space, health design space, which actually takes care of these verticals, which make you completely perform at your optimal.
Absolutely.
So that's a health design space.
Yeah. So you spent 2 decades or more inside the Manipal ecosystem, MG, one of India's largest education health companies, and in roles as creative director, entrepreneur. What did that world really teach you?
A lot. Oh my God. It was like a laboratory in itself
Yeah.
and a huge, huge, huge a learning experience because these are super large scale systems. There's heritage, there is so many verticals. And when I started, there was just healthcare and education. And then there were clinics, and then I built the catering company. So, we got into different areas, and it was such a huge learning to understand that the environment that a person works in shapes everything. And from healing to how a person studies, to absenteeism, to just understanding how a person does the best that he or she can do
Yeah.
with the environment which is tweaked for, say, education, whereas for
Health.
hospitals.
Yeah.
And yeah, so in all the verticals, it taught me how large scale changes can take place.
Okay.
Mm.
And when you said that the environment makes a huge difference, right? So, is there anything you can recollect you did unique to make it
Yeah,
stand out
so
for each of these segments?
absolutely. I mean, at that point when I was doing it, I honestly didn't know. There's color therapy. And when I was designing, let me talk about the hospitals. When I was doing the hospitals, I brought in art therapy. My natural flow was around mandalas and looking at geometries. I brought in colors like oxytocin is a hormone which is actually a bonding hormone. It's a loving hormone, and has colors like pinks and purples. And I designed the women's ward in those colors, and there were flowers and cherry blossoms and colors that actually made that. So visual cues also help you
Yeah.
generate more of that hormone. So that was one. When I worked with kids and kids floors, I always used aquas, and I didn't know it then, but they are endorphins and they are endorphin stimulators. And so I realized I was always about water and dolphins and all these sea creatures that I designed. I even learned graphic design to be able to do.
Wow.
So I'm pretty hands on, and my
I can
team,
see. I mean,
yeah,
the
I,
connection between the hormones and the color. I mean, so much study, I think.
yeah. So but that time actually didn't know because I had not put my
Yeah.
scientist hat then on. And when I actually got to this side, it was actually quite interesting to see, oh my God, I've done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was a science to it, and that is the most beautiful part of it, right? And so there was cortisol when it came to women and how to reduce that with sensory cues. So there are certain aromas that you can use which actually reduces it, light, and changing it to make sure that I looked at the wind path analysis, the sun path analysis to make sure that the light came in. OTs had a lot of natural light, melatonin formation. So we wanted to make sure that because we look at the sun path analysis, so it doesn't have sun, because the sun in the morning actually stimulates cholesterol, which we need to actually get the adrenaline going and start our day. But by the end of the night, we needed the sun to go down and get our melatonin formation to
Yeah.
come out. So from sensory cues like changing the detergent that we used in the hospital, because my mom was in the hospital in Jaslok and I remember that smell of spirit, and I said, no way. Perhaps I'm scared of hospitals. So I actually would say, no, 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 I don't want this smell. So I started changing the detergent in the used to clean the hospitals. I had aromatherapy going on. I changed color as in the hospital. The linen had a softer feel to it, and I think there was a complete shift that
Yeah.
happened with all these small things. And
I'm amazed with
yeah,
such tiny details,
yeah,
huh?
it does
And
make a difference.
yeah,
I felt it. I was there for a
absolutely.
long time.
Well, glad to hear about that. So you also founded Chef on Wheels, which you mentioned earlier, and you also talked about your connection with the Kamat brothers and how very interesting, I must say, that you grew up, working with the food industry at a very young age. And how did a nutrition scientist end up in food service business, and what was that whole experience like? Would love to hear about
Yeah,
your
so I was born into it.
yeah.
So my grandfather founded the Kamat group,
Okay.
and as I said, summers to any holidays, we were thrown into working in every department, from procurement to the kitchen to operations to everything. And I think we started really young. So they say hospitality is definitely in my blood. I am a businesswoman first, then a clinical nutrition and that microbiome scientist, and now a functional health architect. So I think this arc was completely designed, as I said earlier, maybe consciously designed by my subconscious, and that was my
Yeah.
uh, change. So I feel that it was already aligned that way.
Okay.
Mm.
But did you enjoy the food business part
Oh,
also?
I live to
Yeah.
eat.
What were your menu like, and what was it?
So
What was your favorite?
in Kamats, are you saying, or
No, Chef on
in
Wheels.
Chef on Wheels? So basically, I was born in Bombay. I left Bombay when I was little. I was in Singapore for many
Yeah,
years, then
wanted to
Australia.
ask you about that.
Yeah, and then I was in Malaysia. And I love to travel, and I live to eat, as some people say. Today, I live to eat. I eat to live as well, so that I can make a healthy choice
Well,
in terms of my um, food habits. But I have a very global palate. Even in my house today, you will see a menu. I'm very organized, maybe too organized, but I have a menu which covers the whole globe. And I have it set for breakfast, lunch, dinner. And if there are certain guests coming now, if they are Gen, there's a certain palette that I like to put in, and certain recipes. I make my own recipes. So,
how interesting.
yeah. So with Chef on Wheels, we had multi cuisine, and it depended on what. I mean, the sky was the limit. But I would tell you the fun part of Chef on Wheels was starting this small little fast food version of it, which was called Chefy. And again, that was the time I was learning design with spread, and I had to I used that as a project, as my last project, which I had to graduate. And it was just rolls and bowls, and so it
Nice.
was already getting into the health side, but I was looking at less. More whole grain stuff, less oil and monosaturated, healthy food and grilled. Even the biryanis and I mean the bowls were like sandwich biryanis where you had the rice on two sides and the masala, or whether it was chicken or paneer or even a tandoori
Yeah.
butter chicken. It was all kept in the center. So you take a spoon, you go from the top to the bottom, and you could
Oh,
scoop and get one perfect bite, almost like a sandwich. Yeah.
amazing. So, your doctoral research focused specifically on gut microbiome science in Indian mothers and children.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the most, I mean, can you talk to us more about that? And what was the most surprising thing you found? Also, I understand that from your studies somewhere, there is an understanding that kids' gut develops at the age of 2.5, and kind of um, is a kind of a benchmark for how they're going to be in the future, and their characteristics. So
Mm-hmm.
how does all this work?
It's a
Can you throw some
really
light?
wonderful question,
Yeah.
Neha, and it's also something so cutting edge because there is literature that tells us that the gut of an infant resembles that of a mother, or which means it's at its maturity by 2.5, 3 years. And everything in relation to the child's health is pre-programmed by them. So imagine the window you have to
Yeah.
actually give the right kind of nutrition to the child and make his gut or her gut microbiome grow.
Yeah.
So basically, early life nutrition is very, very important. Mother's health and nutrition is very, very important for the child's growth. And the gut microbiome of an infant, even though both the infants were born same at birth, at about 2 years of age, depending on the growth of the child, whether the child is stunted or which was my study, stunting and non-stunting, you will see a very different gut microbiome composition. One will have a super diverse, but it has, which is not good at
Yeah.
that stage. Basically, what I'm saying is your gut microbiome denotes what level of longevity and morbidity a child has. And globally, non-communicable diseases are on a rise, and
Yeah.
that is the whole reason for why early life programming is very, very important. And globally, 74% of deaths are due to cardiovascular disease. So there's diabetes on the rise, there's obesity, which is tripled. So when you look at all that, it is all linked to chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation is linked to lifestyle. So there's a reason why changing and designing your lifestyle on a daily basis is so important, because everything starts early in life.
Yeah.
And when you program early, you have better long-term health outcome.
Sure. So I just wanted to ask you more about the mother and child connection and the gut. This thing. What are some of the tips that we could, the mothers could follow at a young age for children, and could be very basics and simples that would, go a long way in the health for the child.
Absolutely. So I think research has shown, and mine has confirmed too, that exclusive breastfeeding is absolutely protective for the infant. And at least 6 months, you cannot give the child any other complementary foods, and you only start after 6 months. So those two, and depending on how you start feeding your child and what is it that you start feeding your child is also very, very important. With regards to the gut microbiome development, there are lots of products that are coming in the market today, but there's no substantial statistical evidence about the probiotic industry. But we can say that, feeding infants starting with fiber like pears and bananas and apples, all these pureed versions are actually so high fiber for even the mother when she is actually pregnant is very, very good. Even pre-pregnancy is super good for the
Yeah.
mother. So because the mother's gut microbiome is what is influencing the infant's gut microbiome.
Yeah.
So from the gut microbiome perspective, breastfeeding is super, super important because the carbohydrate that comes, which is the fiber that actually comes to the infant from the breast milk, which are human milk oligosaccharides, are the first fibers that the infant actually can use the the gut microbiome of the infant, which is the first colonizers, which are bifidobacteria, they actually feed on these HMOs. HMOs being the human milk oligosaccharides, which is only present in breast milk. And that actually is linked to longevity and immunity and a lot of long-term health benefits.
So you and your co-driver Sarah Fanning took on the RFS India 2018
RFC, yeah.
RFC, sorry, an 8-day international off-road motorsport competition as one of the rare all-women teams. So what on earth possessed you to sign that, and what did it feel like?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm still, when I think of that, it gives me shivers down my spine. I think I lost my friendship. And I bribed her to
really?
get on uh, this journey with me. And it was an adventure that I think she will never forget, neither will I. If I say I had never driven for a long, long time prior to this, and I got into the toughest, most roughest motorsport event you could ever imagine. And I think I believe in not being too comfortable in life. I feel that it's always nice, and psychology also tells us that you should always experiment new things, and there should be a level of adventure in you.
Yeah.
And I think I have that little bit of a daredevil spirit. So I had a physiotherapist who was coming home to actually handle my knee issues at that time. And I said, you know what? And he was actually talking to me about Rainforest Challenge and how it is. And I've always loved SUVs, and I had no clue what that meant. This is a roll cage, and you have to train for it. And I just said, okay, let's just jump. I didn't ask how deep, and I just got into it. He signed me up, and before I knew it, I was training for it. And training versus being actually there, the first day being the only women's team and all the men looking. So there were 40 male teams and one single women's team, and we were like, my co-driver and me were like a husband and wife duo where we both were fighting and turning around and sleeping every night. But it was such a memorable event for both of us because
Yeah.
I think we accomplished something that made us feel very fulfilled.
Yeah.
It was very, very torturous, very strenuous. I remember the first day and the first stage, because it's a rainforest, the river almost looked like a sea by the end of our obstacle. And we were stuck there from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the morning the next day. And uh, we had no clue what we were in for. And that was the first day itself. And obviously, needless to say, that set the ball rolling and made
Yeah.
us tougher than we ever
Yeah.
imagined. So it
I
was
mean,
good.
it's really out of box kind
Yes.
of a thing. People, I've heard of people go for trekking and, but this seems really
Yeah.
challenging, and kudos to you for having done it and
Yeah,
completed
we
it.
came second runner up in our category, and
Mm.
everybody thought we were going to give up. So I really, really thank the support team I had. Everybody had a different sort of team, and my team was completely different. I had my physiotherapist, I had my electrician, I had my driver, I had two cheerleaders from my friends from Malaysia, and I had gone a very different way to RFC compared to the other people who had gone with engineers and a cook and more technical team. And I got my chef, and I did it in style, and I had a caravan. And the sad part was we were stuck on our obstacles and we couldn't even use the caravan. And it was completely not what I expected, but I am so, so, so happy I did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
must have been some experience, I'm sure. You at least have so many stories to
Yes,
tell.
absolutely.
So the wellness industry in India is booming, but a lot of it is frankly noise, I would say,
Mhm.
in my opinion. As someone with serious scientific credentials, what frustrates you most about how wellness is being sold to people right now?
What actually I'm noticing it is that it is looked at as a fad, and that in itself is a little bit of a scary thing because I feel I don't do diets. I feel it's a short-term remedy of sorts, like we have in our ancient traditions where we fast off grains or try and not only eat fruits or anything of that, which
Sure.
is okay temporarily. But I feel lifestyle is what is the future, and designing a lifestyle to suit your bio individuality is what is very important. As I mentioned earlier, you have a certain genetic makeup, you have a certain gut microbiome makeup, you
Yeah.
have a certain environment that you live in, which caters to your stress levels, your hormonal levels,
So
your,
agree.
everything,
Yeah.
right? And your need is epitome. For that need, the lifestyle needs to be designed.
Hmm.
So I feel that this wellness industry is looking at a product supplement which is a temporary short stop. So we need to look at that along with the lifestyle design. So I think the integration of this science with the behavioral aspects that you need in relation to the environment we designed to suit
Yeah.
is very, very important. I think there
Yeah.
needs to be, I will use the word, a holistic view on this perspective.
True, true. Just something about your work. You integrate design environment into health through Sage Work. Can you explain how physical spaces, homes, hospitals, and offices actually influence human biology and behavior?
Let me start with simple things like
Mhm.
your touch points, what you see,
Mm.
right? If you look at the five senses, your sight, your smell, your taste buds. I talked a lot about
Yeah.
food, so you got
Sure.
that, but if you look at just your sight, what you see. So I was telling you, like visual clues, right? So I believe in color therapy. So if you were to look at it in terms of your food plate first, I eat a rainbow by the end of the week.
Okay.
Literally, in the sense, I start on Monday with a certain color, which means I incorporate those vegetables, those sauces.
Really?
Then each day has a different color, and each color represents a chemistry. Because if you look at polyphenols, all the vegetables have polyphenols and they come with lots of properties and vitamins, like your beta carotenes are oranges,
Yeah.
and you have lots of these beta carotenes that feed a certain gut microbiome. So each gut microbiome, if you look at it as an individual, like you have a specific taste, and like I said, I did not like idli vada dosa growing up, but today I realized life is a full circle, and that is fermentation, that is bioavailability, that is science, and I think that is food for my gut microbiome to thrive, right? So if I look at that with the technique of cooking, which is the science behind it, I will feed my gut microbiome the different variety of vegetables and fibers that suit different bacteria, because you have um, trillion bacteria in your
Yes.
gut, right? And so imagine if your brain weighs 2 kgs, if you put the bacteria aside, that would be weighing 2 kgs, and you have two brains, one in your head, one in your abdomen. And these two have a connection. And so if you feed them the right colors, which is the right fibers, and variety and diversity of these fibers, you are actually making your health better, because they are producing metabolites like short chain fatty acids, they are producing vitamins for you, they are producing hormones, like which I told you that 70 percent of your immune system lies in your gut, right? And 90% of your serotonin, which is your mood stabilizer, lies in your gut. You have 500 million plus neurons in your gut. So this is a complete enteric system. We've nervous system, I mean. You have your autonomic nervous system, which has got the parasympathetic and sympathetic. So parasympathetic is where you are resting and relaxing, and sympathetic is when you're in fight and flight. So that actually increases your cortisol, right? So colors like which I told you, endorphin encouraging, which is aquas, mood stabilizing and motivating, which is green for serotonin, yellows and earthy colors for dopamine, GABA has another color. So, all these hormones come from visual cues, and then biology, which it brings in with each fiber that you're feeding your gut. So that's your sight. Then if you look at even hearing, So, noise levels, there is a study linking increased noise to increased cortisol to increased cardiovascular disease. And that's statistically been proven because, again, it gets your sympathetic nervous
Yeah.
system up. So, you need to look at noise levels and how to handle. That's why they say as you wind down to the day, because all this affects sleep. And sleep is linked to inflammation, again, linked to dysbiosis of your gut.
Yeah.
So, literally, there's a circle going on everywhere. Then, if you look at light, and why do we say today that, go into the sunlight in the morning? The daily sun also has a thing of going with the circadian rhythm. And circadian rhythm is very, very
It is
important
important.
for your body to find its balance. If you really look at it, we are what our ancestors ate. If you talk to your grandmother, you talk to your parent, they will give you some kind of advice. And it is amazing to see that we are going back to our roots. So if you look at that in terms of, so we've looked at sight, we have looked at taste, we have looked at um, uh, hearing, we've looked at what else is left. We have
Feel, sense,
yeah. So if you look at sensation, if you certain things, I think all these touch points have memories.
hand.
So, if you actually look at feeling soft things, nice things, it also gives you a sense of calm.
Yeah.
I feel even fabrics, like breathing fabrics, like I sometimes wonder, I mean, you should only wear cotton all the time, right? With the heat, temperature makes such a big
And
difference. So, depending on which environment you are living in, I think so food, light, sleep, stress, movement. Like if I'm in a campus, I want to be able to make pathways that are sheltered, and at the same time I can walk from one place to another, because when I was young, I never walked, I ran everywhere, right? So we have that natural thing. You don't want I in the colleges I designed vegetable gardens and a sensorial field where you had like trees to flower, I mean, fruiting trees to flowering trees, and each smell gives you memory. It gives you calmness. As I told you, there's an aroma therapy that actually comes with these things, and there's so much to learn from each and every touch point of this, which reduces the toxin buildup in your body as well. So your social environment, where are you having your gathering spaces in your eating spaces in your work environment. So you get to have that oxytocin rising where you actually bond with people and talk to them. I didn't even know I was doing this for years, where I designed chiffon wheels in orange, and apparently orange is color of digestion. So, yeah, so all these touch points of color is very important visually, and also it's changes your behavior, changes your nervous system, regulates it,
yeah.
calms you down.
Yeah.
And when you're calm, your gut is healthy and gut is thriving. And if a calm gut is a calm mind, a calm
Absolutely.
mind is a calm gut. So,
Mm.
it's like a win-win both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. You've explained that so
Oh,
beautifully, because I mean, one doesn't realize that all these small
small
things
touch
like
point.
noise, like everything
Yeah.
matters. And, you just sometimes you don't sit down and pause and realize that, okay, we need to think about these
Yeah.
things.
So imagine if we are saying that, we have to now not only realize what are we feeding our children, but what are we exposing them to,
Yeah.
and how we can make their environment so that they can physically, emotionally, spiritually thrive.
Yeah.
With all the touch points in these verticals I
Yeah.
just mentioned.
Yeah.
So their nervous system feels so safe and secure, because anybody who feels safe and secure thrives.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
So that emotional stability is very important.
So, how do you keep learning new things? What motivates you? And, you did this challenge, RFC. I mean, and you say that you want to keep learning new things.
Yeah.
I also read this line saying that when is the last time you did something new,
Yeah.
something different? So,
Yeah.
what motivates you?
So basically, my father told me, and I remember this when I was 10, because that's the last time I spoke to him. He told me learning never stops and life always teaches you
Yeah.
something new, right? So, and that is like today, I'm learning so much by being here. So I feel that, for me, learning has been an innate journey. I love to learn. I mean, I love learning from just sitting there, looking at people, from listening to people, from again, all my touch points and my cues from the environment, from nature in general teaches you so much.
Yeah.
And I feel that learning makes you acquire knowledge, and applying that knowledge gives you wisdom. So, for me, in each and every learning arc, as I mentioned in my life till now, feels like it was consciously designed by my subconscious. I love life, I love biology, I love studying behavior and translate it into systems which can help people just thrive and live better.
Yeah.
So, individually, as an institution, and as an organization, because it is important to have those communities.
Yeah. Ultimately, you just want to touch lives and
Yes,
make an impact.
yes.
So, is there something very ordinary that you still insist on doing yourself, something your team could easily handle, but you refuse to give up?
I look at everything.
Okay.
I have a lot of attention to detail, and I have an amazing team. They also have attention to detail. So together we work beautifully.
Okay.
But I think at this point, because I'm just loving it and I'm bustling, I'm like this child in a candy store, and I just love what I do.
Yeah.
And I just love learning, and now is the time to which I'm adapting and completely using so many verticals
Yeah.
which I have learned through my 46
Yeah.
years of lived experiences and knowledge and
Yeah.
learning. So it's actually the most beautiful time, because everything is um I just feel health in general has become so complicated, and there's too much information, chaos, choices, diets,
Oh my God. Yeah, I agree with you.
noise around everything which you just said. And so I want to be able to look at it personally today, because I believe for myself it's how it started as a journey to simplify life with Simply Sage. Now it is designing life with Sage work, and I love it. So I'm pretty much very much invested into it. And I think at this point, delegation maybe is not necessary, because everybody's learning.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful, because this industry doesn't know anything about this yet. And if I've learned about all this for so many years of my life, I feel that we all are learning together, and we all are growing
Absolutely.
together, and everybody learns something new every day, and there's like a spark.
So, you studied food science seriously. So, tell me honesty, is there junk food in your house? And do you ever get just given an order pizza for your daughters?
Obviously. I mean, come on. I'm a scientist. I am in gut microbiome, but I'm not running a military school, and I'm having two teenage daughters.
Yeah.
Yes, there's always a lava cake and there's a pizza, and when they come to India, there's always Domino's. So I don't believe in restriction. I believe in swaps. I believe in lifestyle changes, where 90% of the time, if you are making healthier choices, the 10% doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You have to live life. And I honestly believe life, as I mentioned, is getting too complicated. Health is perceived as being so complicated. And if anything is complicated, you will not do it.
Yeah.
So I think my intention was to learn nutrition for my family, to keep
Yeah.
them healthy. So it started in that
Yeah.
direction. And I realized that how can I make it easy? How can I make it like a simple swap? Like, I'll just explain to you. Like, fruits were kept in the fridge. I started keeping it at eye level. And then you pass each time and you'll just pick a fruit. How interesting. All the junk food that was there, I kept it on the topmost shelf. So obviously they needed to call somebody, and they're very good kids. So, they would not want to trouble anybody at odd hours in the night when they would actually want junk. So yes, the stools would come out. I hit the stool. So, it was all these little tweaks, but when they wanted it, like, they got it. It's not like they didn't, but it's about them realizing that they need to up their fiber. They need to
Yeah.
move and
Yeah.
exercise, and they all went to sports. So that was helping. So if you touch those major
Yeah.
parameters,
Yeah.
and 90% of your time, you are kind of balancing it to keep your health in check,
Yeah.
because today kids need to. And one good thing about the teenagers today, or the children today, because I used to have like 14 to 15 kids every week home for play dates, and I've seen all these kids grown into like towering all over me right now. And I just feel that they're growing well. They want to make healthier choices. They want to exercise because it might be aesthetic today, but whatever rocks the boat, if social media is promoting certain kind of health benefit, I'm like all for it. So I just feel that it is important to know what you put inside your
Yeah,
system. So I try and give them subtly
sure,
that information. Yeah.
sure. Do your daughters also, what did they think about the your drive through the rainforest? What do they also have the sports streak in them?
They really think I'm crazy. So, and as you also said, that was what was wrong with me to get on that. But I think it taught me a lot. And again, I feel this is the learning arc,
Then
which was again consciously planned by my subconscious. And I feel that it was a great, great, great learning because you need to understand endurance, you need to understand discomfort,
yeah,
you need to understand
I
that
agree.
uh, when things are tough, how do you
Yeah,
deal with it?
yeah,
Again, that's an environment, behavior, response,
yeah,
how to handle stress. Because stress is also important in your life. You cannot go without stress. So you need a certain level of cortisol. And when, but obviously not that much of a cortisol. So I feel it kind of, they came on the last day of and they
okay.
saw me get my
Yep.
award, and they saw me do my last obstacle, and I was zipping and purposely showing off a little. So I did all that to get brownie points because also remember I have two girls,
Yeah,
and I want them to also know that that sky is the limit. You can do
yeah,
anything
yeah.
you want.
So do you do your own grocery shopping, and or does someone else handle it? And if you do go, do you end up reading every label in the aisle?
Guilty as charged.
Okay.
And that's an occupational hazard again, because as a nutritionist, it's blasphemous if you don't look at the label. So, one good thing that has happened is that because you can look at all these things on Amazon, I
Yeah,
can zoom in. So, it
yeah,
doesn't,
yeah.
earlier when I had to go to the grocery store, I would be the one, and everybody passing would say, "Oh my God,
She's back
she's like
again.
back again," and it would take me this much time, and now with the glasses, it takes even longer, right? So it's nice on Amazon to be able to zoom things and look at it. But as a tip, I think it is very important again to know
No.
what you're putting inside your body. And labels are the most important thing, because on the top, you'll see it as just marketing.
Yeah.
And this is the truth, which is where all your toxins lie, your chemicals lie, your basically, if you can, as a tip, if there's anything that doesn't make literal sense to you, don't buy
Don't
it.
pick it.
They'll
Okay,
call
got
it.
it.
And if you see any numbers, if you see any kind of weird looking symbols, no, don't put it in your system. So you need to know what you put in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. And how do you handle phones and screens at home with teenagers? Love to get some tips from a
Mm.
mom.
Oh my God. Now that is a constant battle. I think if I talk to any of my
Yeah,
children with
yeah,
parents, with children, I mean, parents with children, see, that's what happens. So they all have the same issue. But I think today, with the way their learning modules are, everything is on technology. And also, I think you can't really curb it too much. I think I tried to fight small battles where I've now made it a point that when we're sitting on the dining table, no phones.
yeah,
Then, if we have some time where we actually sit to talk about our day and stuff like that, we make sure that again the phones are kept away. I do this once a week where we have like a date night with my daughters, where I would watch a movie of their choice, whatever that they want, or a series that they like, and then we'll sit and discuss it. So I'm trying to limit the sports that also takes away a little bit of that screen time away. But I think they are realizing it too, because there's statistics again that
yeah.
says that the screen time is hampering their processing
Yes,
skills. So yeah,
absolutely. It's good that they realize and do it on their own. Otherwise, it's quite
yeah,
a
yeah.
task to be behind their back. So, on a day when everything goes wrong, the cook doesn't come, the kids need something, you have back-to-back meetings. What's the first thing that you do to hold it together? Breathe.
Breathe. I think for the amount of times I do that in a day, it would be, so sometimes people have seen me when they come with a problem. I'm like, 1 minute. And I'm like taking a Deep breath. So the beauty of breath is, as involuntary an action it is, you have to actually make it voluntary. It's so
And it
bizarre,
works.
and it works. And there are different forms of breathing. Like there's box breathing, there's sigh breathing, there's dragon breathing, there's nadi shodhanam, which is like alternate
Yeah.
nostril breathing. So if you look at what is it that you are trying to de-stress from,
Yeah.
then you can alter your breathing technique to suit that particular problem, like whether it's sleep or whether it is
Yeah.
anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it is just stress and cortisol going up, whether it's just that, oh my God, I think I can sense in my voice, like I started in the beginning, that I was rushing. I couldn't breathe then, but I can take a breath now. So basically, breathing. Second thing I think, which is really, really and also, again, environment matters, as I
Yeah.
always told you. So if somebody was to reach out to me and say, I'm in the office and there are too many people and I have cubicles right beside me, what do I do to
Yeah.
handle my stress? I would say first, just sit and take a breath
Can.
and lead a big sigh. Second, I would tell them to take water. So consciously slow sips of water.
Yeah.
So that naturally kind of gets your parasympathetic
Absolutely. Yeah.
response coming, and it slows down
Yeah.
and brings down your cortisol, your breathing, and that completely gets your BP in control and everything, right? So the third thing, if there's a way you can get out, because that's why I was talking about designing workspaces to actually fulfill this potential of this individual or institution or
Yeah.
organization. Walking, grounding, just like post meal walking is generally very, very good as a habit. Like even if it's just 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you get, just go for a walk, preferably alone. So you're not talking, there's no noise. You're just
And
with nature and you're just being. So for me, when I'm working and if it gets in terms of diet, I feel that just adding fiber
yeah.
really helps me keep the stress levels in check.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, absolutely. Like that's the reason if you notice people, especially at work, even it's easier. Convenience also lowers your stress. Salads and all of that. It's healthy. It's light. They're not overloading your insulin production and stuff like that, and it keeps you satiated because it keeps your glycemic index and
Yeah.
everything in control, right? And then you are actually adding the food for your gut bacteria. You can't digest fiber. It is them. Basically, they say Atiti Deva Bhava. You feed your you as a host, you feed your guests first. I don't know who is the guest now, but
But
yeah, because they benefit. They give you so many benefits for
sure.
your health, right? So I think that that could be important, and I think the most important thing for me is journaling if possible. If you don't today, you can even use your phone and do it.
Yeah.
But I practice a lot of gratitude. I think,
That's wonderful.
yeah, I
Like,
think being in a gratitude space keeps you in love,
yeah.
and love keeps you. It's because happiness, is the first emotion you feel as when you're born as a child, and happiness is not a feeling; it's like a biological state. It is an entitlement because you know, it it just changes your biology.
Yeah.
So if you want to change your life, you have to change your biology. So I think it starts with your hormones that make you happy.
If you had to cook one last question, if you had to cook one dish tonight, just one, what would it be? Something you actually like making and I mean, you enjoy and you make well.
What's the day?
It's
Friday, yes.
Friday, yeah.
So my color palette for
Okay.
Friday is pastels.
Okay.
So, oh yeah, I would make a nice Kerala chicken stew.
Okay.
I dress the part as well. I didn't tell you this. So I eat the part, I dress the part. I dress in the color too. I make it very simple. You walk into your wardrobe, you don't even have to worry about what is hanging there. You just say, oh, what's my color? So my friends laugh at me, but this is how I simplify my life in each and every aspect. So I would make a Kerala chicken stew with appam.
Wow.
And my mentor in St. John's, who I did my PhD under,
Yeah.
has given me the most divine recipes. And let me tell you, I make my own recipes. I don't follow recipes, but I will not miss a single speck of an ingredient in that recipe because it is tasty beyond finger licking.
Do you have a book on these recipes? Are you coming
So
out with a book?
I want to,
You should.
I'm one of those cooks, like you call them the absent-minded professors. I'm like the absent-minded chef, but I think the absent-minded chef has made her own recipes where I like to go to people's kitchen, just look in the fridge, what is there? I don't need ingredients, and I cook my own. And I know which is a prebiotic, what is which probiotic it's going to feed, and what response is going to
So
happen in my gut. So I'm like, you know what, you're set. And as long as there's chili, which is my spice for
Yeah.
life, and as long as there's garlic, and I'm ready to cook a beautiful meal, and I cook like in seconds.
Yeah.
But when it comes to recipes, I normally don't follow recipes, and that's why I tweak everything. As I told you, I make Asian food and different kinds
Yeah.
of food. So
Global palette.
global palette. So I'm in the midst of putting that together. I've been cooking on Simply Sage not because I'm starting some Michelin star restaurant or planning to give any advice on cooking. I just loved it. And now I just realized that thanks to all of that being done, I finally did it so that I could have somebody taking note of the recipes.
Yeah.
So now that the recipes are noted, there might be a book. Otherwise, I would have
Wonderful.
completely forgotten.
I would
what
be
it
the first one to pick up the
Oh,
book.
that would be lovely. Thank
Thank you so much, Shruti. I really enjoyed this conversation. Such interesting things and so much. I mean, I'm still processing a lot of this, what you said. But all the best to you and thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much, Neha. It's lovely to meet you,
Then-
and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
That was a deeply thought provoking conversation. It reminds us that health is not built in isolation, it's shaped by the systems we live in, the choices we make, and the awareness we carry. Sometimes the real transformation begins when we stop treating symptoms and start understanding patterns. This is Expressions Podcast, where conversations don't just inform, they shift perspective. See you in the next episode.